Ben Sachs, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Please provide a brief summary of yourself and your career path to date.
Thanks, Michael. My name is Ben. I guess talking about myself more generally, I'm someone who likes to learn and likes to teach, and that comes across in everything I do, whether it's at home, listening to podcasts, or spending hours reading about something that no one else cares about, or anything like that in conversations with family and friends about ideas. But that also, I'm fortunate enough that flows through into my work as well. So my career has basically been about teaching and research, whether that's been at university as it currently is. But in the past, since I'd done my PhD, which was in history of all things, I've worked in government. I have worked at a knowledge startup, which was, again, using that research, but perhaps in the private sector in a way that is a bit different. And also a lot of teaching and research at universities as well. So that's been here in Perth, at various institutions, but also in Sydney as well. So, trying to use those skills and also just hobbies, I suppose, in ways that can that work professionally as well.
Please describe what your team does and your role in the team.
Yeah, so I'm part of the Academic Communication Development, or ACD team, and basically our job is to help students in the Faculty of Business and Law with their academic skills. That can be anything from paraphrasing, referencing, writing, all the way through to doing presentations and all kinds of other things as well. So, my colleague Miriam Sullivan likes to say that we help students with their assignments, but it does go a bit broader than that. So we run workshops, we develop online and hard copy resources to help people practice their skills. Sometimes we help lecturers to develop assessment design and that kind of thing. We also, what else do we do? So much stuff. One-on-one consults with students who are perhaps struggling with a particular academic skill or with an assignment. They need some feedback to see that they're doing things correctly. Those are all things we do. We also administer the post-entrance language assessment, or the PELA, as students might know. We don't like to advertise that one too much, but that's also part of our remit. And within that, my job, I guess, is pretty flat structure. So we do most of the same stuff, but I tend to look after, because I have a degree in economics, any of those kinds of assignments tend to come towards me for feedback, and I also take care of the MBA cohort more than the others do.
What are some of the important opportunities in your industry?
Yeah, so it's an exciting and challenging time to be at universities at the moment, obviously. Technology plays a big role in that, so that changes the way we teach, and for us, when we're talking about academic skills, how we teach students how to do things like understanding assignment questions, paraphrasing, even oral presentations. These are all things that we're having to increasingly teach in, whether it's online or mixed mode or all kinds of ways, and trying to develop ways of connecting with students that are maybe a little bit different to the past. So that's a big part of it, I think, is sort of adapting to changes in the way that students engage with their university studies and learn academic skills. As well as that, I think for us, and maybe this will come up later, the sort of trying to bridge the sort of perceived gap between academic skills, so academic writing particularly, and professional skills, and particularly in students' minds, I think, making that connection so that they can understand that what they're learning at university is not something that can just be sort of parked to one side, and then when they start the real world, they learn other skills, that there is that connection between those skills, and trying to really make that case to students. I think that industry gets it, but for students sometimes, they don't think that maybe writing that essay is necessarily going to help them to develop skills in the workplace, but we need to try and convince them in new ways that in fact it is helpful.
What does good performance mean to you?
So I spent a few minutes sort of brainstorming this downstairs. So I think, and if you don't mind, I'll sort of reconfigure the question slightly, because good performance to me means performing a task to a high standard. And the question then is, okay, well, if that's what good performance is, how do we do that consistently? And so I think that a big part of it is, trying to build within yourself or within, the individual, but also within their context, a set of circumstances that can help them to do that effectively day in, day out. And that means being prepared. So obviously having the skills and knowledge to perform said task, whatever it might be. It also means part of that preparation is, I guess, communication skills, being able to clearly interpret the task in a way that is what the person asking you to do it or what the situation demands, so not just getting the wrong idea. But also, I think, so that's sort of within us and when we can rely on ourselves to develop those skills. But even beyond that, we also need to feel supported often, because a big part of really good performance is taking initiative and going above and beyond what just maybe the simple task on paper asks us to do. And really, I think that to do that, you need to feel like if you've got a boss, the boss is supporting you, backs you to do your best, and will, if maybe it doesn't quite work out, will still understand and back you the next time to try again. And just having the tools as well. So, if you're in a workplace where you just don't have the physical or emotional or just colleagues to sort of support you in doing that task, then it's very difficult to perform. So I think when those things come together, when you've got the skills, the knowledge, that feeling of being supported, then you can perform consistently to a really high level.
Explain the importance of good communication in business.
Yeah, so that's one that's, really that's what our job is, so I'll try my best. But basically, communication at all stages in a job in business is really important. To get the job, you need to have an interview, you need to write a cover letter, you need to show that you are the right person for the job. And to do that, you need to have really good communication skills, whether that's, speaking in an interview, writing a good cover letter, whatever it might be, you need to have it. Once you have the job, you need to be a good colleague. That means being able to give and receive feedback, which is a really underrated communication skill that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate until they're in the middle of receiving or feedback and perhaps not quite knowing what to do with it. It also means just treating your colleagues with respect and relating to them well. Then obviously performing the job to a high standard. If you're someone who, if you're giving client presentations, if you're interacting with clients in any way, communication skills really important. If you're writing documents for the company or for yourself, whatever it might be, again, you risk appearing less smart than you are if you can't write in a cogent and clear way. And then, so that's also very important. And the last thing I'd say is getting the next job is also important. So, networking, just sort of being able to make small talk, to sort of understand how people can help you, how you can help them, and just sort of relating to them on that basic human level, but still having your eye on sort of strategic matters is something that people, I think it's something that really is important in the business world. And again, I'll sort of probably mention this later, but businesses are consistently telling universities that this is what they want their students to have, these communication, these soft skills, because the hard skills they expect, of course, but they really, what marks out a really good graduate is someone who has those communication skills and can therefore be successful in all aspects of the business.
What are some of the major hurdles you have witnessed in regards to good communication that must be overcome to move forward?
So, good question, and there are a few. I guess I'll focus on three. The first would be, I've kind of touched on this before, but probably perception. So, as I said, in all the feedback that we get in our interactions with industry, they do tell us that this is what they want, is that they want communication, but that really hasn't necessarily filtered through to all of the students. And I think that, so just overcoming that perception that these skills are somehow less important than the technical ones and than the knowledge, the sort of content knowledge, I think that's a challenge. And I think just sort of getting people to appreciate how this is, if you're in an office environment or any business environment, those skills are the ones that you use most often and therefore probably have the biggest impact on your day-to-day performance in the job. So that's one thing. The second thing I'd say is teamwork. Dirty word, I know. I think students on some level appreciate how important teamwork is, and we all do. But I'm someone who certainly hasn't cracked the code as to how to sort of, immediately have a perfect team. And I think that just because it is so indispensable in every part of your job, almost no matter what your job is, it's something that you do have to take seriously. No one said it was easy, but just sort of understanding that there are challenges with working with other people, but also that those challenges also, there's great opportunities as well, and some of your best experiences will come from teamwork, but that you need to actively develop strategies that can help you be successful consistently in teams. So not just complaining about them or sort of just doing all the work yourself, which to me, probably as a student, were the two strategies that I used most commonly, but actually reading and speaking to people who have been involved in successful teams and trying to emulate what they've done and avoid the things that didn't work, and sort of just thinking, how can I actually change this? And the last thing I'd mention is the challenges in teamwork, in communication rather, would be just the need to be flexible and adaptable. And I guess two obvious ones. One would be generational differences, just understanding that sometimes people from different generations have different ways of communicating, and sort of being able to adapt to that. If you like, certainly when I was working in government, people who were maybe in their 50s preferred a phone call rather than an email, but it was all the graduates would just want to send an email because that was what they were more comfortable with. And just being able to adapt to sort of change the way that you communicate slightly to suit the people around you. And the other part of that, of course, with adaptability would be with intercultural communication, which is just so important, particularly in Australia, particularly with the sort of the multicultural and indeed global sort of workforce that we increasingly have. It's really non-negotiable to sort of learn how to communicate effectively and work effectively with people from other cultures. And no one said it was going to be easy. They've got often cultures where there's different sort of attitudes towards hierarchies and authority. Just firstly understanding that and appreciating that, and then again finding practical solutions so that you can work together effectively, because for your, obviously for your colleagues, to respect them, but also just to respect the business or the organization that you're working for, because ultimately that's the most important thing, is working together in a way that sort of just can get the job done effectively.
In your opinion, what does it take to succeed in the business world today?
That's the $1 million or several $1 million over the course of a career, I suppose, question. I think, look, it would be remiss of me, given our job is to sort of develop students' communication skills, to sort of not plug that. I think that communication skills are really important no matter what you do, really, in business or in any other sort of industry. I think that just developing those skills and really paying attention to them is something that will take you pretty much anywhere, whether it's in government, industry, whatever it might be, as a sort of sole trader. Anything that you do, those skills I think are really important. I also think that just having, I suppose, accepting that, if you've seen some of the statistics that go out there, most people aren't going to have a single career, and certainly not going to work in a single job. I think there's 5 careers and 17 jobs is the sort of estimate that they're saying for the average person who graduates today. So just sort of buckling up for that ride and acknowledging that you might have a plan A, but it might not work exactly how you thought, and that's okay. Just sort of being willing to adapt, being agile, these sort of buzzwords that come up, but it's because it's true. Increasingly, you do need to be agile and to adapt to the world around you. So that would be probably my big takeaway: develop those communication skills and to be successful. Yeah, just sort of be agile, be willing to change, to adapt to what comes up around you.
What is your best advice for new university graduates?
I feel like I've just accidentally answered that question instead. But I think my best advice sort of would be, firstly, again, communication skills really are important. It would be to understand what it is that you offer and to value it, just to sort of be able to give, the elevator pitch, to be able to sort of explain to someone what you're good at and why they should either hire you or why that you are an appropriate person for a particular task or job. I think just understanding yourself, not just as a professional, but also as a person, and being able to make that case is really important. And also just outside of your job, I think it's important. I think another thing would just be to, when you've got something like your job, I think it can be the best part of your life, or it can be the worst part. Just to make sure that if you want your job to be everything that everything that you live for, that's great, and I'm not here to tell you that's wrong. But for those of you who don't, that's okay. Just make sure you don't lose all your friends, your family connections, your hobbies. These are all things that sometimes we park to one side when we sort of enter the real world. We think that we have to, this is the next phase of our life. But actually, work is a really important part of your life, but it doesn't need to define you. You're still a person outside of 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are that you work. So just maintain that sense of balance in your life. If that balance is all work, that's no problem. Or maybe it is for you, I don't know. But find a life that you're happy with and lead it, I guess, would be my advice.
Ben, thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.